Welcome in, everybody, to the 423 Football Podcast. I'm your host, Brandon Bouchard. Week 2 is over. A few teams out there are still 2-0. A few teams have yet to get that victory so far this season. But it's early on in the season. Hopefully you guys are undefeated in your fantasy leagues. So I know I had a little bit of a rough patch this week. Didn't win a game, unfortunately. Had some struggles with the running backs, David Johnson, Jay Ajayi, going out with an injury. But all in all, it's only week 2. There's plenty of time to make up ground and get back in the fantasy chase, even if you haven't won a game yet. I mean, there's a long way to go, at least 10, 12 weeks before the fantasy playoffs, so still plenty of time. You got to make those waiver wire acquisitions, got to make those trades, just make the moves to prepare yourself for the rest of the season. Today is the Week 2 recap, so we're going to go through some of the news, some of the injury news, some of the standouts, the flops from the week, and then we'll give you some stock ups and stock downs. Those are the guys that you really want to kind of target or stray away from when you're looking for waiver wire acquisitions and trade targets. I know we put these episodes out on Wednesday, so it kind of misses the waiver wire talk. So if you really, really want to see what we think in terms of players you should pick up on the waiver wire initially, just make sure you go and follow us on Twitter at the 423 Football. We'll post those every single Tuesday to make sure you guys are getting the proper information in terms of waiver wire acquisitions. So, just a little bit of news before we get into the meat and potatoes of the show. Big news, obviously, that everyone's talking about at the moment. Josh Gordon traded to the Patriots for a 5th rounder. Gordon really, he had that one good catch in week 1, and then he sits out week 2, and everyone's kind of just like, oh, what's going on? We hear that he's going to be traded or released, and then we officially get the word that it is going to be a trade to the Patriots. So, there's been every reaction in the book from, oh, he's going to be what Randy Moss was with Tom Brady to he might just be kind of mediocre because Gronk's there and Edelman's going to be back and things like that. I tend to believe that it's going to be closer. I wouldn't say Moss-like, but it's going to be closer to that than it is going to be him being a dud. I think he definitely has easy top 10 upside every single week. Again, there could be weeks where he just blows up and he's the number 1 wide receiver in fantasy. I do think, however, as much as I like Gordon and as much as I like Gronk and their abilities, I do have a slight concern that it's going to be a lot of inconsistency week to week between both of the guys. If Gordon truly is going to be that focal point in the offense as well. Again, Brady can spread the ball around to give a lot of players equal opportunity to score fantasy points. So I'm just saying there's a lot of names in that offense with Gronk, obviously Edelman coming back. Hogan had a big week last week, and Gordon coming into a new offense and having to change his culture, I should say. So it's going to be very interesting. Again, I really, really like Gordon. A lot more than Edelman, definitely, and a lot more than Hogan. So I don't really know exactly where I'd rank him in terms of other wide receivers. Maybe closer to T.Y. Hilton, probably in that area. I have him closer to the back end of the wide receiver 1. So Josh Gordon definitely taking a big step up, especially in the terms of quarterback play. Joe Mixon out multiple weeks after going through a knee procedure. So big hit to fantasy owners there. Mixon was having a great start to the season. Gio Bernard is definitely going to be the benefactor of that injury. So just if Gio Bernard is out there, I know he was one of my top waiver wire guys this week. So definitely want to make sure Gio Bernard is on your team if you can make that possible. Greg Zuerlein out multiple weeks with a groin injury. This isn't. I usually don't bring up news about kickers, but this was kind of big, mainly for the fact we didn't get a heads up before this previous game, so it hurt a lot of people getting a big 0 from the kicker position if you use kickers. But yeah, Zerline is definitely, he was one of the top scorers in terms of kickers last year. So I guess that's a big hit if you use kickers and depending on how relevant you think the position is. LaShawn McCoy dealing with a rib injury and is also back in the news regarding his domestic abuse involvement. Again, I have just hated anything about McCoy this entire year. That Bills offense is terrible. He's getting older. The offensive line is horrendous. No quarterback play. Obviously, the domestic abuse allegations could lead to something, and then now we have a rib injury. If you have LaShawn McCoy, I would trade him for scraps, just pennies on the dollar at the moment. I really don't see an upside. If you can't do that, I really think he's wasting a roster spot, and I wouldn't have a problem dropping him if I owned LaShawn McCoy. So, I mean, that might be a hot take. I know Chris Ivory is going to be the guy in that Bills backfield for the next couple weeks, possibly. Again, don't really want Chris Ivory, but just saying, I'm pretty much all but done with LaShawn McCoy. Mike Wallace suffered a fractured fibula. That would have been a big mix-up there. Mike Williams obviously having a good season. Mike Wallace, on the other hand, fractured fibula, may be out for the season, just diminishing that Eagles wide receiver core. It's just Nelson Aguilar and Zach Ertz pretty much. Corey Clement is going to get a lot of work out of the backfield. So I really like Ertz. I've always liked Ertz. He's probably... he's definitely top 3 tight ends at the moment. So Ertz, I don't see his value going up from this, but it definitely isn't a good sign for the Eagles, especially with Carson Wentz coming back this week. He's not going to have as many weapons as he would like. And then 2 offensive line injuries I want to mention, just because they're pretty key injuries, especially for the running game and pass protection for both of these teams. First of all, Andre Levitre, Falcons left guard, is out for the year. So not the best news for the Falcons running game. I know that line's pretty stout in general, but so I think they'll be okay. But still something to monitor in terms of the run game more so than the pass game, I believe. And then Cam Robinson, Jaguars left tackle, he has a torn ACL. He will be out for the year. Again, big hit for the Jaguars. That offensive line was starting to look like a just dominant force in the NFL. TJ Yeldon was running wild behind him. Fournette, I know he's dealing with injuries right now, but Cam Robinson definitely protecting the blind side for Blake Bortles. That's key, and obviously he will not be there the rest of the season. Okay, standouts from week 2. Time to get into the thick of it for this episode. Starting with the QB position, a few guys had some really big weeks. Ryan Fitzpatrick continues to impress. Ben Roethlisberger had a very good game. But I'm going with Patrick Mahomes. 6 touchdowns in this game. Has 10 touchdowns in 2 games this season. He is just lighting the league on fire. His arm is just... you almost can't guard it. Like, not many guys can throw the ball that hard and that accurate. Just on a rope every single time, and it's very, very difficult to defend. I will be interested once they face a really, really top-tier defense. I haven't really dug deep into what their schedule is going to be the rest of the way, but maybe the Chargers, once they play the Chargers, that might be a more intriguing matchup in terms of what we see out of Mahomes, because, again, the teams haven't had a lot of tape on him, so that could be another reason why Mahomes is blowing up right now. I still believe Mahomes is going to be a very good quarterback for the future. I think he's going to last quite a while in Kansas City, but again, he's going to come back down to earth at some point. That touchdown pace is definitely not sustainable, but it's definitely nice for right now, especially with Sammy Watkins, Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, all proving to be benefactors of Mahomes' play. Running backs, Todd Gurley obviously went off. I expect him to do that, honestly. I am surprised by all the rushing yards, or just the yardage in general for all these running backs so far this year. Like Gurley, David Johnson, you got guys like Ezekiel Elliott even, just they haven't really shown that they can run consistently behind these offensive lines. Or, it's a lot to do with game flow and things like that, but still, it's kind of interesting how that's all playing out. Like, Matt Breida is the leading rusher in the NFL right now, but Gurley only 73 yards, but had 3 touchdowns and 2-point conversions, so definitely a good week for Gurley. And then speaking of Matt Breida, he's my main standout for this week, 138 rushing yards and a touchdown. I was cooling on the Niners running backs last week because I thought they were going to use Alfred Morris a lot more than they were going to use Breida there for a while. I thought it was going to be a pretty heavy split. Breida's definitely the guy I've always wanted in that backfield. I think he's a more talented back. I think he's more like a Chris Thompson who can just explode every play and be a pretty decent just running back in general, even on first and second downs. So Matt Breida definitely rising on him moving forward. From the wide receiver position, Adam Thielen, Stephon Diggs, had monster numbers in this game against the Packers. I will say, I don't want to say it was garbage time. Again, a lot of different things played out in that game. I mean, say what you will, whether it be officiating, the Packers just slipping up on defense and mismanaging the clock. A lot of things went wrong to allow these numbers to happen because up until the fourth quarter, like, Diggs he had less than 100 yards and no touchdowns. Thielen, I think he had close to maybe 80 yards and no touchdowns. So all of this came in the fourth quarter. So it might be something to look at just in terms of, hey, I don't expect Kirk Cousins to go out there and throw for close to 300 yards and 3 touchdowns in a quarter. So just maybe, definitely standouts this week, but come back down to earth. Just pump the brakes there a little on Thielen and Diggs. I will say, welcome back Will Fuller to the Texans. 8 catches, 113 yards, and a touchdown. He was Deshaun Watson's go-to man when they were both healthy last season. I mean, Will Fuller, his touchdown rate was just unbelievable, even better than Hopkins. So Will Fuller, having him back on the field is definitely going to help that offense in general. It's going to help Lamar Miller. It's going to help DeAndre Hopkins. And obviously, I'm not saying obviously, but hopefully it helps Deshaun Watson. He's been struggling in terms of fantasy numbers as well. Tight end, standout of the week, I'm going Travis Kelce. Had a completely dud week 1, but comes out, catches 7 passes for 109 yards and 2 touchdowns. Definitely hurt me big time in fantasy this week as I was facing him in one league. So, yeah, Travis Kelce, definitely good to see him bounce back. Now, flops from week 2. These are the guys that kind of crap the bed. Maybe guys that I'm not necessarily cooling on, but definitely guys that you might want to watch in terms of how their offenses are using them. Because all but maybe 2 or 3 of these guys I'm really concerned about. Andrew Luck, for one. 11 points in this game, 2 interceptions, under 200 yards against a defense that's really not that great in Washington. So I think Luck, again, he's lacking some weapons on the field. T.Y. Hilton is basically his only weapon he has. The running backs I like in terms of their talent and what they can do to help Luck. But again, don't really like the running backs specifically. I don't want to pick one. I'm even cooling on Marlon Mack just because I think it's too cluttered in that backfield. Running back, Chris Carson, 2.4 points in this game. Chris Carson, he's still regarded as the number 1 back in Seattle. Rashad Penny, I know, is the new rookie, the flashy guy that everyone's expecting to take over eventually. But Chris Carson, I mean, he just had a dud game. He didn't touch the ball in the fourth quarter, and maybe it's the time that Rashad Penny slowly steps into that lead role in that backfield. But if the Seattle Seahawks can't fix that offensive line, it's not going to be fun for either of those running backs or Russell Wilson. Also, David Johnson, man, 5 points in this game. Had a disappointing week 1 as well. Just isn't being used in the right way, I believe. Sam Bradford, I think, needs to just sit on the bench. I think it's time for Josh Rosen already. He's still my favorite quarterback in this rookie class. I think he's going to be better than any of those guys. So I think, honestly, it's time to put him in, see what he can do. Obviously, it's not going to get much worse than David Johnson getting 5 points. That guy needs the ball. He needs the volume. He needs to catch balls out of the backfield. So I'm not necessarily worried right now for David Johnson. I will as a whole season, I'm not worried about David Johnson. These next couple weeks, I kind of am. I don't even think he's gonna get those. Close to RB1 numbers. Really, he's gonna be a low end RB2 for me until something changes in that offense. One more running back I want to talk about, Rex Burkhead. Only 22 rushing yards in this game, 0 receptions, which that is where we thought Rex Burkhead's value was going to be. But Sonny Michel was back, or he made his debut this week, so that might have played a part of it. And then James White, I think, I think he's the best back they have. He's definitely more dynamic than Burkhead, and he can do everything that Sonny Michel can do. So Burkhead, I don't want to dump him just yet. I would look to trade him. Maybe some people, maybe a Patriots fan out there would take him, but I do think it's worrisome, especially with a new guy like Josh Gordon coming in and then Edelman coming back in a few weeks. Burkhead's definitely a guy I do not want on my team at the moment. Wide receiver, I'm going Larry Fitzgerald. Another, just more talking about the Cardinals. 3 catches for 28 yards. Something's got to change in that Cardinals offense and defense, really. That team is struggling big time. So until things change, I am kind of, I don't know, I'm hesitant to play Larry Fitzgerald. Again, if you have David Johnson, it's kind of hard not to play him at the moment. And then tight end, Rob Gronkowski. That name doesn't pop up on the flops list very often, so 2 catches for 15 yards in this game. It was really peculiar because Jalen Ramsey didn't really cover Gronk at all. I know that was a big talk all throughout the week last week, but just the Jags did a really good job of limiting what Gronk was going to do out there on the field, and obviously it showed with the fantasy numbers and the production. I fully expect him to bounce back. He's still the number 1 tight end in most people's eyes. Again, Kelsey and Ertz, Kelsey, Ertz, and Gronk, I truly believe are 1A, 1B, 1C. But with Josh Gordon coming in, it might be something to look at. But again, I fully expect Gronk to put up big numbers this season. Okay, give you some stock ups and stock downs, and then we'll close out the show. So, a few stock ups at the running back position. Matt Breida, I talked about before. Obviously, I think he's going to get the majority of the carries from here on out. Obviously, the league leading rusher at the moment. So maybe it just continues. Gio Bernard, obviously, Joe Mixon is going to be out for a couple weeks. So Gio Bernard, we forget about this guy. I mean, his rookie year, his first 2 years, even with Jeremy Hill in that backfield, Gio Bernard put up some big fantasy numbers, and I think that Bengals offense is clicking at the moment. Phillip Lindsay has looked incredible in that Broncos offense. Royce Freeman, I still believe they want to use quite a bit. He's going to be the goal line guy, but Phillip Lindsay is 100% taking over that third down back role. He is dynamic, again, kind of like that Chris Thompson, Matt Breida kind of player. Devontae Booker is completely out of that offense at the moment, so Phillip Lindsay all the way there. And then one more running back I want to mention, mainly because he's coming back from suspension this week, Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones is a guy that I said last year reminded me of Kareem Hunt. And I got a lot of flack for that, but Aaron Jones, I think, is a very talented player. He's a very explosive player. He's a player that fits that Green Bay offense more so than Ty Montgomery or Jamal Williams. Again, like both of those guys, they provide a decent amount of value when they get the carries, but Aaron Jones is that home run hitting guy that Aaron Rodgers is going to love to have back in that offense. So Aaron Jones, really liking him as a stock-up candidate. And then a few wide receivers I want to mention. Mike Williams, I talked about him earlier. I think he is really becoming a trustworthy target for Phillip Rivers, and I think they're both seeing that. So Mike Williams, I can only see him moving up in value. Keelan Cole, again, people are going to say just because of that one catch, that's why I have him up. It was a great catch. I 100% believe that was a better catch than Odell Beckham's. But the reason I have him as a stock-up candidate is someone's got to catch the ball on that team. And as long as Fournette is out, I think they're going to have to pass a little more. They can't just be a ground-and-pound team. And Keelan Cole is going to benefit from that. And again, he's the number one option at the moment. Dede Westbrook I like a lot. Dante Moncrief and Safarian Jenkins, those are going to be the red zone guys. But Keelan Cole, Dede Westbrook, I think those are going to be really, really big parts of that offense, especially between the 20s. And then last wide receiver I want to mention as a stock-up candidate, Antonio Callaway. Callaway, obviously the rookie in the Browns organization right now, had some trouble during the offseason and preseason in terms of just legal issues, but he seems to be on the right path. He seems to be straight at the moment. So Browns obviously lose Josh Gordon. Someone's got to catch the ball. I still don't believe Jarvis Landry is that great of a wide receiver. He's going to catch a lot of balls, but Antonio Callaway is definitely a guy that can really tear the top off of a defense, as we saw with this monster touchdown from Tyrod Taylor this past week. So Jarvis Landry, again, I like him as that dink and dunk kind of guy. I don't think Tyrod Taylor looks for those guys very often, so maybe a little worrisome there. But yeah, Antonio Callaway, I'm really, really rising on so far this season. And then a few stock downs. I got two Patriots guys, actually. Chris Hogan, I know he had a big week this past week, but obviously with Josh Gordon coming in, Gronk, I don't expect to have a game like that again, so that's going to take away from Chris Hogan. James White, Sonny Michel, I think are going to be bigger parts of the offense as well, again, taken away from Chris Hogan. And then, on top of that, Julian Edelman is coming back in a few weeks, so you're not going to get much more of Chris Hogan having 2 touchdown games. And then Rex Burkhead, again, same thing. Just a lot of guys stepping up in that offense that will take away from Hogan and Burkhead. Colts running back Marlon Mack. Really, I say Mack, but I mean the entire Colts running backs, or the entire running back committee of the Colts. I just say Mack because he's the main name. He's the one that people are most likely to have on their team at the moment. So I'm definitely cooling on him. Maybe hold on to him, but I'm kind of straying away from that Colts backfield until I see something better out of the line, luck, and just the play calling in general. And then again, I know talking a lot of running backs today, but that's where the value is. But I do have the Titans running backs as stock down this week. I just don't know how they're going to use them. I really don't. I thought they came into the season. I fully expected them to use Derrick Henry as a workhorse back. I think they should use him as a workhorse back. They have a dominant offensive line. Derrick Henry is just a power runner. He needs those 20 to 25, 30 carries a game to be effective and really pound on a defense. And that's how he should be used. I think the Titans are making a mistake not using him like that. And then Dion Lewis, again, I don't think they want to use him like we saw in the preseason and where the Patriots used him the past couple years. I think he's an okay back, just mid-tier, mediocre back. But again, just how the game flow is going and just how they want to use him is very interesting. I think it's just going to be a week-to-week thing in terms of, okay, maybe he does well this week, maybe he doesn't do so well the next week, and just it's a cluttered backfield. Even though it's only 2 guys, usually with two running backs, you can decide which one you want, or maybe even use both, but not in this situation. Derrick Henry, Dion Lewis, definitely falling in stock value. So that is going to be all for today. again, I'm going to try. I haven't asked him yet, but I'm going to try to get Brett back on the show. For tomorrow's episode, we'll go through the week 3 preview. Sorry, I've been just talking nonstop today. So yeah, we'll try to get Brett back on. I know it's been very, not very exciting listening to just my voice the past couple weeks. And again, I apologize for that. It's just been a hectic couple of weeks, and we're going to try to get back on a more, I guess, clear schedule. Again, trying to put out 2 episodes a week. I will be, I guess, in a few weeks, some of my weekends are going to be taken up, so I'm not going to be able to record as much as I'd like, or in a timely manner, I should say. So it might be, we might drop an episode on Thursday and Friday instead of Wednesday, Thursday, or we might have to drop an episode on Tuesday, Wednesday, or split it up like that. But again, we're going to give you 2 episodes a week. Sorry for all the confusion. Sorry for the, I don't want to say lack of quality, because I still think we're giving you a good amount of information each and every week. It's just with us having different career paths and different things going on, we're obviously progressing in our lives at the moment. We love doing this podcast. We love talking fantasy football. There's not a day that goes by where I don't think of fantasy football in some capacity. So this is, I truly love doing this. It's just sometimes we don't have the capability of making time to record these. So again, just stick with us. We're going to be here all season, even into the off season. Hopefully, again, we're year round. We've produced episodes every single week, whether it be 1 5-minute episode or whether it be 2 or 3 hour-long episodes. So please stick with us. I know we love hearing you guys with your comments, anything like that, being active on Twitter. We like seeing that. We like seeing that people are still listening to our show and supporting us. So just with all that being said, thank you. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at the 423 Football. Make sure you like us on Facebook. Subscribe on iTunes, Google Play, and YouTube. Give us a like. Leave your comments and reviews. Thanks for listening. We are the 423 Football Podcast.